All right, let's see.
We're all good. We're all good.
I have it up on the stream too, so
Nice.
to see if we're actually live because it takes a minute or two.
I see it ticking down. It says live, so we must
Okay, yay! That'll be a
Yep,
plus.
and it's live on YouTube. So what's
Perfect. Hello, everyone. We are here with author P.L. Stuart to discuss the Drowned Kingdom, part of the part one of the Drowned Kingdom saga. And thank you so much for joining us, P.L.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored, Alicia and Jen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I've been thinking about this all week. So excited.
I've been like writing everything down. I'm like, this has to mean everything. Like, I have so many tabs. I have so many tabs.
Note take.
That is a good thing. When an author sees that someone's tabbed their book that much, that means warms my heart.
Well, since I actually have the author here, I don't want to mess up the synopsis of a book while I have the author here. So, for people who haven't read the book, would you mind giving a synopsis of book one?
Book one. Okay, so the whole series is it's largely based on my version of it's inspired by Plato's tale, the famous Greek philosopher, of the lost realm of Atlantis. That is a huge part of the book and the series, and referencing the fact that no spoiler here, in the tale Atlantis sinks, and in my book, yes. Atlantis sinks. It goes down like a big stone. Yes. So that is part
Charles, hi.
Hey.
He's the one who got mad at me because now he wants to read the whole series.
Oh, well, sorry, but not sorry. I mean, I'm happy if that's the case.
He's like, now I need to know everything.
Hey, well, thanks, Books on Stereo. Yeah, just keep reading and you'll find out.
He wants to know when book 2's audio is coming out. I know.
Audios, I'm going to be honest, they're going to be a while just because A, they're expensive to make, but B, I want to concentrate on getting the whole series out and then go back and get on it. So we figured the most important audio to make was the first one to get people into the series, and then from there we'd work up. But because it's like the times are kind of tight.
Charles!
So bad. Again, sorry, not sorry. We're just saying that off camera. Jen and Alicia and I were just saying, I'm like, all the rules they teach you, never end the book on a cliffhanger. I'm like, go for it.
That's how you get them back for the next one.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'm an indie author. We take chances.
Yeah, I interrupted your synopsis. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. So the book and the series about Atlantis. It's about after Atlantis sinks, there are survivors, and they go across the sea to this new continent, and they're led by this prince. His name is Author, and he's the second son of the king. He's got issues. He's got issues on top of his issues, actually. Like he's a hot mess. So anyways, he's very flawed. He's bigoted. He's misogynist. As my friend Taylor from Made Between the Pages said, he's all the its and the isms that you just don't like.
Yes, that's perfect.
Right? Yeah, he's got some redeeming qualities, but yeah, he's got some problems. But that said, he winds up being the boss essentially, and he takes his people across the sea. And so the Atalanteans, and in my version of Atlantis called Atalantics, doesn't sound very creative, but there's reasons for that, but I can't get into. But anyways, so Atalantics, the Atalanteans, they're this colonial superpower, and they have ruled the region that they've been in for 5 centuries, and they consider themselves this peerless civilization. They're at the top of the food chain. Everybody shall bow to them. Their thing is conquer, subjugate, especially if they actually like, their game plan is kind of like, well, make allies and then betray them, take over their allies then, and then do it again, kind of rinse and repeat. And then eventually we have everything. So that's their plan. On top of everything, they are monotheistic in the way they worship. So they worship a single god. And they feel quite comfortable with, as I said, subjugating, killing people, and to convert them forcibly to their religion. So when they go across the water, the people in that continent, well, they ain't they ain't down with that. So because they have their own worship, a lot of it is based on there's two regions in this new continent, and one region has druids, and the other region has mages, and they worship multiple deities. The mages are they believe they can channel the power of the elements like wind, fire, water, and the druids worship these kind of like almost Nordic type gods. And yeah, all these people and all the kings and world queens and warlords of these nations, they want nothing to do with Author and think he's going to come and take over. So Author comes over there and he's got to kind of carve out a kingdom amidst trying to make alliances, trying to stay alive because people want him dead, trying to reestablish his people and kind of preserve what's left of his culture. So you can imagine that that's a lot to deal with. So yes. That's kind of what the book at the Drowned Kingdom, the start of it, and the series is about. So
yes, I'm really curious because book one was all of Author's point of view. And I know you've said previously that there'll be more point of views as we go on in the series. What was why did you choose to do one POV for book one?
Okay, that's a great question. So Author is always going to be like the main POV. Mm-hmm. There's a couple reasons. So one reason is I wanted people to have no doubt about who Author is, what he thinks, all his issues, all his problems, and I want you to be kind of in his head. Hey, how's it going? I want you to be in his head. I didn't want you to kind of look away. And that can be challenging because he's not an easy person to listen to or read for, for 400 pages. However, I think there's moments, that his very dark, snarky, biting, sarcastic humor can be kind of funny. He's pretty cruel and he's pretty, he's very arrogant and he's, but that yet he has these moments of real self-reflection and doubt, and he actually starts questioning his own messed up thought processes. And I'm seeing the question there. But yeah, Lacey the Female Mages. Don't worry, you'll get more of her.
She's one of my favorites.
Yeah, a lot of people's favorite. She's actually based on my stepdaughter, Laura, and who's just like a real badass. Doesn't have Lacey's negative issues, but has like a lot of the 14. My stepdaughter is awesome. She's a hockey player and like short, but like she'll take on anybody, right? She just a very vibrant, just an amazing personality. So, anyways, I made that first person because I wanted to be immersed in Author's viewpoint and how he thinks, his backstory. And when it's first person and someone says something, I believe it's more poignant and more impactful. Like if I say, Paul cut his finger and it hurt, it's different when I say, oh, I cut my finger and it hurt. And it's just that first person perspective really can, if you do it properly, I think it can really hit home. Second, Author, of course, the narrower the scope of the POV, so once the first person, the less the reader actually knows, because you only know what he knows.
Right. And you're only seeing it from his side.
Yeah, and I wanted that because there's so many things about this world I didn't want you to see other than from his limited perspective. I want you to look with his lens and go, well, I'm not sure if what he's saying is accurate. I'm not sure if this person is really how he describes him. I'm not sure if he's actually seeing. And plus, on top of that, without giving away too many spoilers, there's some things that he sees that you wonder, is that really going on? Is that real? Is that a hallucination? Is that so? I wanted that very I'm not sure. I'm questioning his sanity. I'm questioning their reality. Like what's going on here? So I very much wanted that effect because as the series progresses and I introduce more POVs and some more omnipotent, like third person POV sprinkled in there, then you as a reader get more of a sense of, so that's what's going on. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, I realized why he didn't tell me about that. So yeah, that's what we writers, we like to play these games.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I have theories about the voices that he heard.
Me
I'm just
too.
it put a huge sense of doubt. I was like, oh god, like I read too many murder mysteries to have
we both do.
Everything is like on point. So I'm just like, are people just like pretending around him and he's hearing things? Oh my gosh, I went way left field for some reason. It's probably not even going to be anywhere near it, but that doubt is there. I feel it.
That's okay. That's what. That's awesome. That's what I love. I want you to think like, is he cray cray or is like Like, what's going on here? I want to plant that doubt so that as things get revealed, you're like, oh wow, okay, I didn't know it was like that. Like that's
Yeah.
the effect I want to have. So that means I kind of did my job, sort of.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I wanted to go back to the dedication because your dedication to your mom made me cry.
Well,
Like, it was so sweet. I was like, oh. Well, I remember hearing you during another live discussion say that your mom wrote herself, and that's what kind of gave you inspiration to write.
yeah. Hi, Mom. I love you if you watch this eventually. And
Hi,
my
Mom.
mom, yeah, she's awesome. She's actually outside somewhere. She's probably dozing. She's 88. So she's probably, it's past her bedtime. Anyways, yeah, I'm very blessed that she says that she lives vicariously through my book. She was a writer herself. She never published. So you guys are far too young probably to recall, but you might. There used to be like those dime store paperbacks, Harlequin romances. They used to sell them in. Oh well, okay, wow, okay.
I was like,
I'm blown away.
down here.
I'm blown away. You guys have a bunch of those. Okay, I stand corrected. I apologize. I was
a friend of mine does a podcast about the category romances, which I think in Canada are Mills and Boon. I think.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I was being way too presumptuous there. You two are so young, but because I'm dating myself too, because I'm old, right? I'm a granddad. So you see by the grade. So
I mean,
anyway.
I know about him till like 6-ish months ago, so it's like I'm kind of newish to it, so it would have been
newish.
So yeah, she wrote those Harlequin, and of course I'm biased, but I thought she was great. So she wrote these Harlequin romances. She submitted it. One of her drafts for to a traditional publishing company, and back then there was no real self-publishing option, right? Like when she did it, like that was so. And unfortunately, she got rejected. I mean, as we all know, it usually takes numerous attempts, even especially back then and now, to get accepted by a publisher, right? And typically now you need an agent. Although some traditional publishers have windows where they accept unsolicited manuscripts, etc. But anyways, point is, she got one rejection letter and she was done. She's like, okay, that's it, I'm done. I'm like, Mom, like, because she got the letter was really kind, and it gave her a lot of great analysis and feedback, kind of like, hey, you have a lot of talent here. If you fix this, you should resubmit, blah, blah, very encouraging. But she's like, no, that's enough for me. And you know what? At the time, I was like, come on, Mom, but I get it though, right?
Yeah.
And I even now, I can't even think about querying. I think my ego, my imposter syndrome, just the people that stick it out. I have to give hats off to those authors that stick it out. They're trying for years to get an agent. Then they find an agent and they get a book deal, and they've persevered. Like, hats off to you, my friends, to do that, right? I couldn't. I didn't want to wait. I'm not usually an impatient guy, but I was for that, and I started writing late. So I was like, I can't wait for 4, 5, 6 years to try and hope that I get something that's no guarantee. But anyways, my mom, she's one of the most literate people I know, but she never went to post-secondary school. She's very well read. And of course, she's the greatest mom. She's always been so encouraging and motivating. And it's funny, like my lovely wife, Debbie, hey, sweetheart, I love you too. I was going to originally, she's out there somewhere. I was originally going to dedicate the first book to her. And Deb's like, are you crazy? Dedicate to your mom. Your mom bored you. Like, and as usual,
that's awesome.
She's always right. My wife was right. And she's
smart.
Like, she's like, you can dedicate the second book to me, but your mom gets it first. I'm like,
book number 2.
So, and she was right. So, but anyways, my mom is my inspiration. She's my motivation. She's my hero. And if I have any writing talent other than God given, it's from the DNA. It's from her. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you automatically, it kind of goes into a question that I have. You automatically went into self-publishing, or did you query and things like that?
No, as I said, Alicia, I'm old, and when I finally got it together, so just to give you a gentle context, I wrote this massive tome that was probably, I don't know how many pages, well over 1,000 pages of this thing that was the Drowned Kingdom saga. And I was like, when you start doing research, when you're naive and start to learn, you think, oh yeah, everybody, going to be the next George R. R. Martin, blah, 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 no. And then you start realizing, well, no one's going to read a 1,500-page book from an indie author that nobody knows, right? It's much more palatable if you split that up. And on top of that, I learned that, hey, series tend to sell, right? So, you know, I was like, okay, so that was simple. Chop it up into 7 books, you know, and elaborate and expand on some subplots, and you'll have 7, you know, massive market paperback wise, 400, 500 page books, somewhere between 160 and 200K words. And, you know, the way you go. So I knew that with my game plan, I wanted to publish a book a year. And knowing that, as Philip Chase, my friend, booktuber, wonderful booktuber, author, and academic, says, you have to win the lottery twice. 3 times, actually. You have to get an agent, then you have to secure a book deal, and then your book has to be one of those top books that is pushed by your publisher in order to succeed in your publisher. And you know what? That could have taken me a decade. Meanwhile, I figured I could self-publish and have a book out roughly every year, which I've done. So, you know, in the space of basically two years, almost 3, I've gotten 3 books out. So, and that's unless you're certain authors, that's actually unheard of for in the traditionally published world. And I have self-published friends who publish a whole lot more than me, and in different genres, i.e. romance. The self-published romance peeps, they snap out 5, 6, 10.
It's constant. It's constant with romance.
Yeah. So or mystery, like those genres. And I looked at the self-published thing. I'm like, I don't know savant or clairvoyant, but it's obvious that I felt this is the way of the future. Like, you know, this is where things are going. And you see more and more traditionally published authors going hybrid. Okay, I got this book series that I don't think my publisher's going to want, but I want to get out there, so I'm going to self-publish it. And I'll keep, you know, traditionally publishing more other books. And there's more and more hybrids. But I think down the road, I think self-publishing is going to rule the roost because just the creative freedom, the way you can get books out so quickly, the appetite for things that are just different, like not just, you know, okay, what the big book companies believe is bankable or sellable.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about, so, you know, like, I'm a proud self-pub. Now, never say never. If someone backs up a truckload of money to my house and says, hey, you know, like you want to, yeah. So okay, well, that's a different story. But for now, I'm pursuing it. I'm certainly going to self-publish my series. That's my plan, and then, you know, I have a lot more books to write after that. Hopefully, God willing. So we'll see how it goes from there. So,
if I'm doing the math correctly, the last book will come out in 2027.
That is correct. Excellent math. You're way better at math than I
am. So, like, how much of it before you decided to chop it up did you have written? Like, because you had that big tome that was over 1,000 pages.
So I had the guts of it written. I had the whole thing such written. There were just subplots, different characters that came in, and, you know, a few twists that weren't in there. And I had to flush out certain things. So, but I mean, the guts of it were written. So then it was much more about expanding it. Yeah. And I have, you know, these 7 books planned. Then I plan to write 2 prequel trilogies, which will, one will be set about 300 years before the main character was born, and one will be set about 500 years before he was born. And the whole thing is
interesting.
And 2 of the main characters well, they'll be focused on 2 characters. They won't always get the big POVs all the time, but it'll basically be about 2 characters that the character Author, the prince, the main character in John Kingdom, that he idolizes. And then, but when you go back in history, you find out, and these people weren't exactly the way Author thought they were. Right. So they lived hundreds of years before he was born. Like, he just has, you know, all these ancient scrolls and his own belief and interpretation of what they're like, but nah, they ain't gonna be like that.
And people embellish, like, when they're writing stuff down. Like,
I was just thinking of the game of telephone. Exactly. Goes around the circle. I'm like, that's nothing what I said. What are you talking about?
Plus, you know, Author, he likes to imagine. He likes to create his own truth. He likes to live in a bubble of, you know, this was like this, and, you know, if it's not like this, I'll rewrite it like that. He's a bit like that. So so I have these 2 prequel trilogies planned, and then after that, I have a subsequent 7-book series that's gonna kind of close out the whole universe. Yeah.
Yay! So we don't have to leave this world just yet.
Like 20 years.
20 books. Yeah. So
where did the idea, because fantasy, and especially this type of fantasy that you wrote, is so intricate, where did the idea come from?
Okay, well, that's a great question. So again, I wanted to. I'm a nerd. I'm a English nerd, history nerd. So
Same.
yeah. So over my life, I've grown up on classical, a lot of classical stuff. I've read a lot of classical stuff. So from the ancient epics and the Iliad, the Odyssey, Paradise Lost, Dante's Inferno, La Morte Arthur, and of course, classical, more modern fantasy, like we say modern, long dead people, but the Tolkiens and the C.S. Lewis's and the Lloyd Alexanders, and then of course the more modern stuff like the Stephen Donaldsons and the Robert Jordans, and
yeah.
But I mean, I always wanted to write something about Atlantis because it's just this fascinating.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah, like right now, there's people out there looking for this place, and most experts argue that it never existed, but there's people who believe it and looking for it, right? And I think that's fascinating, and I just think the whole tale, if you read Plato's original tale, it is a really compelling story about this uber society that fell potentially because of hubris. It may or may not have been favored by the gods initially, but then they fell from grace, and I just love that whole thing. And so that I want to write something about Atlantis. I also want to write something that was like epic fantasy. Like I mentioned, a lot of those books. Like I want to write something that 100 years after I'm dead, people are going. I know every author dreams this, but people are going, "Wow, you know what? That's still relevant, timely, and yeah, it's a good book, and it's epic. It's something that will transcend, the centuries, right?" And I also third, probably, I want to write something about. I was trying to confront and sort out a lot of issues in my own head about a lot of the themes of the book, like racism, colonialism, misogyny, xenophobia, all these things. And I was like, when you write that stuff in a made up book, it's a lot easier for people to read about in some ways. Not necessarily, but it can be because it's ultimately it's made up. And you can say certain things and do certain things with those issues in a book. In a fiction book that you can't do if you're writing, say, a nonfiction book and you're exploring the topic, right?
Right.
So that's probably the third reason why I wanted to talk about it. And like I said, as I also said in other interviews, like I'm certainly smart enough to have any answers for this stuff. Like, this is stuff that's perplexed and confounded,
everybody
for decades and centuries. I ain't that sort. But however, I wanted to give people some food for thought and really. Hopefully people would explore, what do I really think about this? What do I think about that? And I guess finally, sorry, I said 3, but now I'm cheating. It's 4.
You're the author. You're allowed to.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of wrap this all up from the main perspective of what would be analogous to an ancient ruler. And I wanted people to consider, this is an ancient ruler. What sort of would be some of the value systems back in ancient times? How would someone like that think? Because what I love about history is that so much of it is twisted, to the victor. The victor writes the history. A lot of these people are lionized and idolized, and no one ever, so I say no one's, many people don't stop to think about, what was the person really like? What was their policy on other races? What was their stance on other religions? What was it? No,
right.
We turn these people to heroes. One of my favorite people to pick on, who I love, again, I'm a history nerd, Henry V. Okay? Well, Henry V was one of the greatest kings of England. Why? He conquered France. And he was a great soldier.
Yeah.
He fought at the front with his troops. He led his troops in the battle. Yeah. And that's why he was a great king. So, why was he a great king? Because he's a great warrior. He's a great soldier. He conquered territory for England. That's what his reputation was built on. But what about the rest, right? What kind of person was he like? And that's, with a person like Author, I try to make him, I take bits and pieces of what I've read about some ancient rulers, current rulers and world leaders, people I've known personally, people I've heard about, and I kind of mix them up and stretch them up, and hence that's Author with all of his flaws and drama. So I want to write that into a book. I want a main character that people are going to go, I may hate this guy, but I'm not going to forget him.
Yeah. He's annoying. He's irritating. Yeah, he made him sound super snooty. It was great.
There were a couple of times I wanted to crawl through my earbuds and be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throat punch him. It's funny you say Henry V because this is my history brain when I was reading it. I was wondering if you were looking at like the War of the Roses when it came to Othrin and his brother, because they had two very separate ways of thinking.
Well, anything historical from the medieval period, because I went to school and I took medieval literature, medieval English minor in history, and
Yeah.
I love that era. But Othrin and Earthel's relationship is based on a lot of historical context between brothers that were in power, not necessarily kings, but sometimes earls, princes. Like, there's a lot that goes in. I can't spoil it, but there's a lot that goes into their conflict and what happens with it. But yeah, I take a lot of things in the Dragon Kingdom Center from history, from ancient history, African history, history of the Middle East, the Mediterranean, history of the Britons, Scandinavia. I take a lot of stuff from history and I kind of twist it up and mix it up and
yeah, I was wondering because I am such like a history nerd. I'm like, am I reading too much into this? I don't think so, because I remember speaking to you before about how you were a medievalist and how you like to study history and stuff like that. I'm like, maybe I am, but maybe not.
No, you nailed it. No, you nailed it. A lot of my stuff is straight out of history books, more than thinly disguised. And I put my own twist in it. I like to make it somewhat inventive and original. But yeah, a lot of because history repeats itself, right? And we see the same themes over and over and over again, right? You could take everything that's happening in the world right now and go, that happens in the Dragon Kingdom. And that's unfortunately, that's the reality. So
yeah, that was one of the things that I found interesting with book one being a single POV is like we only see it from Othrin's point of view. So was his father really that horrible, or was Earthel really that horrible? Because you only get his point of view. So like there's two sides and then the truth. Like everything gets slightly twisted when people like recount things. So
yeah, and you nailed it, Alicia. And the beauty of, I don't know if it's the beauty, but at least it's something I do. Throughout the series, there will be a lot of callbacks, flashbacks. You'll see in unique ways. You'll learn more about what really happened with Othrin and Earthel. What really happened? Why did Earthel do what he did? Like, what like you'll learn all those things, in a backhanded way sometimes, because especially if a situation person has passed away, or like you'll learn things as things go on. That's what I can say as you read the series. So
I think we did as much non-spoilery stuff as we could do. We made it 26 minutes, so we did pretty good.
Bring on the spoilers. Bring them on.
I have a spoiler banner, so no one can say that I didn't warn them.
Awesome.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Okay. So I know the myth of the Atlantis, and I was expecting that towards the end. So when that happened in like chapter 13, I was like, but wait, we have so much left of the book. I was so confused. I was like, but wait. And then I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. I was so upset with the Meg ruler when he like offered his daughter. Like that was just like, I was like, I know that happened in real life. So, like, it's not making anything up, but it was just, like, ew. Like, why? I'm like, no. And then you wonder if it's, like, her, or the fact that his brother fell in love with her, or I don't know. It was just, like, it was so, like, confusing in, like, a family way. Of, like,
yeah, and I mean, as you know, being history buffs, both of you, that dynastic marriages were quite common.
Yes.
Marrying off, especially women in the context of ancient for political purposes was quite common. And marrying people to forge alliances, marrying off your daughters at the forge alliances was extremely common. I mean, hell, most of the major royal houses that still exist in the world were the result of all these dynastic marriages. So that's just the way it rolled. You know, however, you will find out more. That's all I can say as the series goes on in terms of what was behind all that. By the time you get to Lord and King, the third book, you'll get a much better handle, and then you really get a handle on it in book four.
I just found her interesting because like she was, for lack of a better term, a pawn for a bunch of men. So like she had no say in any of it.
Yeah, and you'll see like in the first book, the portrayal of women isn't very flattering. It isn't very fulsome, and it's not very like the women in the book one don't have a lot of agency, and that's purposeful because I want to depict to you this is what the culture was like, this is what this was like. But as you go through the series, you start to realize that really and truly it's all about women, and women run the show, and the Drowned Kingdom saga really is about women. And yeah, by the time you get to book 3, you kind of start to figure that out. So.
I got such Red Wedding vibes. Like, sorry, to bring in a different one, but like as soon as they're like, "There's no women here," I'm just like, "Okay, red alert!" Like you have their swords. Like something's not going right here. So I was really nervous.
I thought the same thing.
Being like, "Don't die, guys! Like you gotta get out alive."
I thought the same thing.
For murder at all points.
Yep. Well, realize that at its core. In Eltnia, the region where Othrin is hoping to one day rule, that the place is essentially run in terms of religion by all female mages who worship 6 elemental goddesses. So I'll just leave it there.
I can't wait. I have it sitting right here, patiently waiting for me.
I'm honored. Yeah.
I have to say, I love this cover. I'm so excited. I love this cover so much.
Well, thank you.
Who designs your covers? I'm curious.
So I have a little indie Vandy press that I publish with called Freezing Press, and the wonderful Jeff Sock. He's amazing. He brings my covers to life. So I tell him, hey, this is what I want to put in the cover, and he comes up with the image.
They're fantastic.
So that particular cover though was different and special because my dear friend Elizabeth Eckstein, who is an author herself, she actually did the mammoth design for that cover, and then Jeff kind of jazzed it up and made the.
I love it.
Well, thank you.
That's gonna be one of my questions. Like, how do you decide how to do your cover? Like, what do you decide to be on there? Like, this one seems I don't even want to say obvious, but I mean they do the symbol all the time with the triangle and the circle. My brain just went offline. I'm super sorry. And then like the Atlantic theme, I'm like, that kind of makes sense, but like, how do you decide?
Every cover has a meaning. I have the covers designed for the entire 20 books. I know what the titles are going to be. It's all laid out, right? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So every book, the cover has meaning to that specific book. So for example, A Drowned Kingdom, I mean, you can kind of figure that out that, hey, you know, like the place drowned, and in the empty space, you see the symbol of the single god, which is the religion that Othrin is people. So it's kind of like, did the single god cause the kingdom to drown? And it's like you see this symbol hovering over the empty water where Atlantis would have been after it was sunk. Like, what went on there? So that is the core of the series, a central question in the series, obviously. So that is why that has that cover. The last of the Atlanteans, without too many spoilers, that is a battle flag. That is the Atlantean battle flag. And when you read the book, you'll realize the title and the cover are linked. And I recommend that once you read the book. Steve Talks Books did a wonderful. I've been doing spoiler discussions with some great authors: Jenny Wirtz, Miles Cameron, Steve, some other friends, bloggers such as Made You in the Pages on the books, and there's another one for Lord Needing coming up eventually. So
they've been on my watch later because I wanted to read the books first.
Yeah, so watch the Drowned Kingdom one now.
Yep.
And you'll get some special insights when you read the last Atlanteans. Watch that one, and so on. So yeah,
the third one's coming up shortly. The third one is out already. It's been out since the spring. Yeah. Right? The third one. Forgive me, some self promotion here. I don't have it right. It's in my bedroom.
That's Lord and King. That's the third cover. And again,
I love
reasons
it.
for this cover. So that's all the covers have meaning. When you read the book, it becomes quite apparent, I think, why.
You mentioned George R. R. Martin before, and that's who I thought of while I was reading it. I was like, this is giving me like Game of Thrones vibes all day, like the political intriguiness of your books and George R. R. Martin's books are kind of not exactly the same, but I get the like maybe inspired by.
Usually inspired. One of my favorite authors. I'm a big A Song of Ice and Fire fan. I'm a
So am I.
huge fan, even including the last season, which was kind of a you know what show. I still
Glad
I
you said
still
it.
I still love it. I got to unashamedly kind of like geek out about for the first time in my life a long running series that had basically everything I wanted in watching a fantasy show. It had the drama, the politics, the really flawed, dirty, messy characters, just characters that were just so messed up. The no one is safe. Oh, kill off the main hero. Oh, kill off the secondary hero. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one is safe. Oh, kill off the really beloved hero, bring him back to life. But
Right.
you know what I mean? Like just there was no. I just love the randomness of it, and I love the element of it was such a gritty world, a realistic world, and that's what I try to create in my world. Stephen R. Donaldson, another author I read years ago, another influence, but the biggest influence I think for the reason why I want to write the John King saga is after I read A Traitor's Sun Cycle by Miles Christian Cameron. His Traitor's Sun Cycle was it was like, I want to write an epic, immersive story and world like that. So that was also a big inspiration. And now that I've read a lot more books, I would say that even though I started writing the saga before I started reading these books, Janie Wirtz, my favorite author, reading her books is just like,
I just picked up a book by her. To Rise Hell's
Chasm, yeah.
Yeah, I can never get it right. And
Yeah.
But I wanted to start with her standalone because her series are so big.
Massive.
Yeah.
But just my favorite her Wars of Light Shadows, my favorite fantasy series, and To Ride Hell's Chasm is my favorite fantasy book of all time. After you read it, you'll see why. I mean, it's not for everybody, but we can talk about it. I'd love to tell you why.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but yeah, after you read it, you'll probably figure out why.
Yeah. Well, I have the first book in her in the series.
Wars of Light Shadows? Yeah.
Yes, I don't they seem to be very hard to come by. Like physical copies.
Which is a shame because she's an iconic author and she belongs to be mentioned up there with the Martins and the Jordans and the Ericksons and but I mean, she's
And to be perfectly honest, that's why growing up I never really read fantasy because I was like, it's all dudes.
Yeah.
I was like, but I like never knew till much later about like Robin Hobb and all these authors that took male pseudonyms because of how fantasy was back then.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. There's so many amazing, iconic female authors that have been writing for decades, and so many amazing new ones coming up. You could read female fantasy exclusively for the rest of your life, and not be disappointed with. I mean, it's just so much great stuff. So yeah, for sure.
This might be a very hard question for you. Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, no, I was like, this is a random question. I wanted, so at the very beginning, like I know you said you kind of keep it all in your brain together, but there are so many characters. Like, do you have like a list of people? I know in the back of the book, you kind of have like who everyone is, but then you also have a little bit of a, oh my gosh.
Dramatic
There's a family tree.
Family tree, thank you.
Yes.
How do you do that? Do you have like a bunch of family tree? Do you have like an entire room of just like the family trees of everybody? Because it's so extensive.
Yeah, there's essentially, I mean, I have my own little kind of like Wikipedia version of, all the family trees of all the major houses, all of the places, names, everything that has to do with the world is all categorized and organized. Mm-hmm. But I have it in my head because, I mean, I wrote it, right? Like, I'll remember 99.9% details. Sure, once in a while I'll have to go, oh yeah, what did I write about that again? But I mean, it's all my crazy head, and I think that's an author thing where and I think you'll find, and I'm excited. I'm not spoiling that you too might write books someday. I think, and I can't wait. But like you'll find when you write your own books, those characters live in your head, man.
Yeah.
They you know, you know exactly what they're doing, you know what they're thinking, where they're going, you know who so and so's mom was and their dog. Like that stuff you retain it. So
I always love that stuff in history too. I was like, give me all
Mhm.
the family trees. I want to know everything.
I was like, I want to see Wikipedia. This stuff sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I need to
Yes.
reference everything. Be like, okay, where did they come in here?
yeah, and I guess and I'll know a lot of it again, especially in the first book because there's a lot to absorb. It may seem really extraneous, but believe me, over the course of 20 books, everything I put in there, a lot of them may go like, what? Why did I think we were talking about that backstage before we started, Jen? You were saying like, well, why is that in there? Well, things come back around. Yeah. Things matter. Things that don't seem like they don't matter, they matter. So
I love that though. Like something that comes like, let's just say book 10. You'll remember them talking about it from book 4. I love doing that. I love like I'm a puzzle person, so like once I can figure it all out, I'm like yes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of puzzles. There's a lot of puzzles in this book, right?
Yes,
there's a lot of like
so satisfying.
And that's why it was taking me so long to read. Like I started this at the beginning of like the end of last month because I was taking my time with it, and I slowed down and I wasn't reading as fast as I normally do.
Gotta catch them all, like Pokemon.
Yes, exactly.
All the Easter eggs, find them.
Yes. But like, it's a little bit further into the book. The fight that Author has with, is it
Or the horrific?
Yes.
Or the horrific.
Awful, awful, but very good character. But awful.
I can't believe he got up. I'm sorry.
I know.
I was just like, sure. Like he's trying to help you live. I mean, I guess that's how they the fighting style they do. But I was just like, oh man, that's not going to end well for you, my friend.
I was curious because I'm not trying, but a lot of authors seem to have a hard time with writing fight scenes. And there's a quote, I'm paraphrasing, but like there was a quote of like, look at where they stumble, like they have a shorter leg or something like that. And I'm no joke, my dad used to fight professionally and my dad literally told me word for word the same exact thing. I highlighted it in the book. I'm like, no way, does he have a fighting background or something? Because like literally my dad told me the same thing when I was a kid.
Well, there's a couple things there. So number one, obviously, I'm a nerd and a medievalist that I've studied a lot of ancient combat fighting, etc. I work in law enforcement. That's my regular job. So over 20 plus years in law enforcement, I've been in a few confrontations. Of course, you're trained a certain way.
Yeah.
So So I mean. But most of it really is, and I'm not like, if you want to know about ancient combat, you want to meet an expert. Christian Miles Cameron, he puts out those fighting videos. Go watch it on YouTube. He's just.
I didn't know he put them on YouTube. I heard about them. I didn't know they were on YouTube.
Yeah, he's a reenactor, so he travels all over the world dressed up in armor, and he goes out and does huge scale pretend battles. And I went to his house one time and I'm there. He's got all the swords. Like he's incredible.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible. Christian Miles Cameron, and read his books. He's a brilliant writer. He's one of the best battle scene writers I've ever read. Right? Him, Bernard Cornwell, John Gwynne.
I love Bernard Cornwell.
Yeah. Evan Winter. They write those four, especially Evan Winter, Bernard Cornwell, John Gwynne, Christian Cameron. Those are some, and Jenny Wirtz. Jenny writes phenomenal battles. Like they write some of the best battle scenes. And for me, battle scenes are all about stakes because it's about the buildup. It's about how did you get here? What was the tension? The tension leading up to the explosion. The explosion is quick. It's like it's over fast. Most fights are over like that. It's it. Like someone comes up, takes a swing, someone stabs in the throat. It's over. Someone parries. There's a couple blows. Then someone makes a headshot, it's over. It's very quick, it's intense. You can
watch Charles.
You can watch the rest of it. You can watch the replay. But like battles are supposed to be bloody, intense, but the build-up is what I focus on. And then I want to give you that build-up and then a quick, bloody, like it's kind of like it's a knockout. Because typically, everything I've learned and everything I've dealt with in my life as a law enforcement officer, confrontations tend to be over somewhat quickly. So,
Yes.
yeah.
The one part of that scene that like made me cringe. I've had heel cord surgeries growing up, so like when he slices his heel cord, I was like like I don't even care about this guy, but like that hurts so much. Like
Yeah,
it was just like an internal cringe.
Yeah, he strung him, and that was a common
Oh!
move. He severed his hamstrings. But
Yeah,
I mean, that's medieval, especially in the ancient combat. It is
Yep.
bloody. You're dealing with sharp objects, and people get hurt badly. So yeah, that was.
It was just like so internal because I've had 2 surgeries in that area, so I was like,
I'm sorry.
that hurts so much.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trigger you.
No, not in a bad way. But I'm like, he must know somebody who like had that happen or something, because like that was written perfectly. Like,
well, thank you. Yeah.
And it was just, I was like, either he's dealt with it himself or knows someone who has, because it's just like there was no words for it. It was just like I was like, that hurts. And somehow he stood up. I want to know how.
Yeah, well, because he was, I mean, a part of
7 foot. Yeah.
But also human anatomy, you're not made to stand up after that. But however,
exactly.
He was an extraordinarily strong and determined, and also, an adrenaline thing, right? It's like people have lost arms, legs. They've been clinically dead, but they get up on their feet and they fight.
Yeah,
and then they die right away. It's just one of those things. So
it's always fascinating to me, like what you can do with adrenaline.
Oh, plot twist in the middle of the book threw me for a loop. Plot twist. Well, there's a couple of them. So which one?
Is he talking about are you talking about Atlanta? I can't words. When everything sunk into the water, I'm guessing maybe. I don't know. Yeah. That's not necessarily the middle of the book, though. So.
Well, I mean, at the beginning of the book, right in the prologue, something's happened, right? And then as it goes on, they all can't really be dead when Atlantis sets. Well, the whole
I have theories about that too. I'm like, maybe they aren't dead. They kept talking about,
like a purgatory.
Birds are gonna go over there and they're not gonna be there. People are gonna be looking for them. I'm just like, somehow people might have survived. I'm like really nervous that the brother's alive somehow and that he's gonna come back and like take the throne.
Exactly.
I'm not prepared for this.
I love that part. It was like, I love the like clashing of cultures in books in general, but when you add clashing of religions, it just fascinates me. Like, I don't even spiritualism versus like faith, I guess, is what you were going for.
Yeah, religion versus faith was a big theme. You hit the nail on the head. Let's see, that's really astute of you. So, and yeah, Jen, like that, I love the theorizing. Like, that's awesome stuff.
I can't get real dramatic.
Yeah, I can't give anything away because that's one of my favorite things. Sorry, it's aside. I'm going to answer your question, but one of my favorite things when people DM me and say, "I know who Night Soul is," or "I know I figured it out." It's like, oh, like that's a great theory. I obviously can't tell you, but sometimes people do figure things out, and it's like, oh wow, that's really, because people are smart. They're astute.
Yeah.
And, I try to write things that you're not going to know what happens, but there are things that people will figure out and go, okay, well, I knew that was coming, like, later on.
Charles.
Loves the drama.
This is why I wanted you to read it. Now you can't get mad at me.
He did. Well, and his uncle said heathen a lot. At first, I was just like, I didn't notice, remind me, is his name?
Author.
Thank you. I kept wanting to say urine, and I'm like, that's not it. Author. Yeah. I thought he didn't say it quite as much as his uncle did, but then he started picking up on it. I'm like, they both did it. But that's just kind of, I want to say how they grew up and what their religion told them, and just like, hey, if you don't follow our rule, like, you're a heathen.
Yeah, they're bigoted, they're prejudiced, they're very insular, they're intolerant towards other religions. That's how the culture, and especially the elites, right?
Yeah.
But sorry, let's use question. Just so
audiobook.
The audiobook. Okay, I'll answer the audiobook.
Oh, I didn't know which question it was. Oh, I'm
Because
so
you missed
sorry.
it. No, just the one on the bottom was about the audiobook. So while you were away, books on stereo, I'd mentioned that I was going to concentrate on getting the books out first, then potentially go back because there's only one audiobook out because they're expensive, and try and make so the series probably going to finish first in physical book form, ebook form, and then down the road go back and start making more audiobooks because they're time consuming and they're pretty expensive to make. So that's
and
why.
what you also missed was Alicia mathing, and it's 2027. So start reading. I want to say that in the nicest way, but
that's awesome. And yeah, the female mage, yeah, Lacey, she's a big character. So
she was my she just walked in and owned the room. I was like, I like her. I don't know why, but I like her.
Yeah,
it's been terrible because I was so grateful that he was like devout to his wife, but I'm just like,
me too.
I kind of want you to be with her instead.
A little bit of shipping, a little bit of shipping. That if there's one thing I can say about my books, I'm not some huge authors, huge audience, but what audience I do have, the people that like my books, I'm grateful for you, the ones that read. Everybody wants. 90% of people want Author and Lacey to hook up. But
I want him to be respectful to his current wife. Do it in a nice way.
Yeah, you did it right. You were like, we can have a relationship with the three of us. I was like, okay, like I would be down for this. Like, she's not doing much for me, but I'm like, maybe as the three of you together, she'll teach her something. I don't know.
Oh,
I
highlighted that whole page. I was like, all right, I'm in.
She put it out there. So I mean, but
she's prepared.
But Author, to his credit, thank you so much, Book Center. I'm honored. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But yeah, so Author, of course, is a man full of contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
Nico from Nico's book reviews to review of John Kingdom, and he prefaced it by, tell the author, betray my allies, no problem. Cheat on my wife, across the line.
Yeah, exactly.
He's full of these contradictions, but we all are. Right? We just don't see them, right? Mm-hmm. So, but his are laid bare for the reader, right? Very much laid bare for the reader.
And it's also like I kept on forgetting how young he actually is. Like we all made stupid mistakes at 20.
Yeah, he's 20 years old, but mindful in the context of an ancient, like
right.
The average lifespan was 50, 60 tops. Like most people didn't live. Like people lived to be 70, 80 were really old. Right? Most people died in their 40s and 50s. So in the context of his current age, he's very much an outlaw. People ruled kingdoms at very young ages in ancient times. So he's like you said, you hit the nail. He's still technically young in his thinking, right? He's not mature, but he will learn and he will grow, and sometimes he won't, and sometimes he will be frustrating and backslide. So much of it, you talked about religion versus faith. I talk about this a lot when I talk about this book, is that, for me, and I'm not denigrating or insulting any religions or anyone of faith, so please don't take this wrong way. Like, for me, religion is the trapping around the faith. So the hierarchy, the priest, the clergy, the priestesses, the nuns, it's everything human made around a faith. And faith is like something that's inside of you. That's your relationship with your God or gods or goddesses or deities. That's something different, right? And people have to realize that the religious part, it can be a force for good and can be a force for not so good. Mm-hmm. And down through the centuries, organized religions, have done a lot of amazing things. We probably would have destroyed ourselves were it not for organized religion. And they've done a lot of horrific things. And so we have to balance that because it's human made. It's subject to flaws. Your faith, that's a sacred thing between you and, whoever, whatever he, she, it that you believe in, or that you don't believe in, if you're atheist, agnostic, etc., but which is obviously amazing too. But the point is that realize that, religious intolerance doesn't blossom from your spiritual faith in a deity. It blossoms from the organization around that says we're the best. That's wrong. And, you should disparage that. And, and that isn't, of course, the case with all religions or all faiths. It's just that historically that comes up constantly in our human history, right? That other religions persecute other religions because
Yeah.
they believe that that is unfortunately a byproduct of human society. Hey, RM.
Hi, Liz.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And this is a question you answered earlier, but Charles wasn't
Yes.
here.
Yeah, so as the saga expands, you see more and more POVs. You see not just more and more first person POVs, you see more omnipotent third person. So, for example, in The Last of the Atlanteans, you see your first other first person POV other than Author. And it's brief, it's only for a couple chapters, but it's there. Then when you get to Lauren King, you start off with an omnipotent POV, and then you'll have another other POV for a couple more chapters in there. And then by the time you get to Lions Pride, there's several omnipotent POVs and a couple of it just keeps going because you mix and match as you start to see these are things I didn't want to show you and why.
Yeah.
You realize, ooh, okay, so but now you find out. So as I peel back the curtain on everything.
I love it.
Love the religion aspect in Clash Team, which was fascinating because the female mage is a good point. She explained the reason behind it.
Yeah.
Yes, and the one thing I want to impress on people who read this series, specifically about Lacey, because I think she's one of my favorite characters.
She's fascinating.
She's such a small part in here, and I'm just like, I want you in
Every
book. Like, I
page.
need all of your information.
Yeah, you will get more. You'll get more of her. You'll definitely get more of her. She is in some ways a mirror to Author, and in some ways she reflects what he needs to pay attention to, what he's doing wrong. She calls him on everything. She knows everything about him almost, but yet she's very drawn to him, and he's drawn to her. And it's a really interesting dynamic. But yeah, she is the person who is best positioned to explain to him why there's issues with what he's doing.
Yeah.
And when you read the things that Lacey says through, especially the first two books, she's warning him about certain things that come to fruition later, which you will see as you read. Waymaker interviewed others with covered by religion makes his arguments. Yeah, he's a religious zealot in a lot of ways, but also he's privileged. And when you come from a place of privilege and you don't really understand or appreciate, the fact that hey, you're insulated by that privilege potentially. Yeah. I mean, he's at the top of a society that believe they're at the top of other societies. So, I mean, he in his defense, it was highly unlikely he was going to think any other way based on the way he was raised, where he came from, being born in a royal family of Atlantic. Like that's kind of, you don't give him a mulligan for that, because obviously people are responsible for their own thought processes, and some people are very just enlightened. They learn to be enlightened, etc. Right. But yeah, a lot of who Author is because how he's raised. His idol, his uncle, is an extremely entrenched, prejudiced, flawed, and very elite, very elitist. And, Author in some ways idolizes his uncle and wants to be like his uncle. He sees his uncle as, that's the path, because like his uncle, he wasn't born to be the king, and he figured his path would be something like his uncle, like the big hero, the big war leader, the person who gets all the glory. And yeah, I'm not the king, but I'm the most popular because I won all the battles and I went and conquered the territory, and I'm my brother's main advisor. So he thought that was, he figured that's how I can carve myself out a role. Right, because what do you do when you're the second son? You gotta figure out a role if you're not going to be the overall king, right? So
it was just fascinating because then you look at his cousin. It starts with a yes, that's it. I loved him so much.
A lot of people.
I loved him so much because I was like, this is who you need in your ear, not everybody else.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, Glathan is most people's, between Glathan and Hurt and Lacey, those are probably most people's favorite
so adorable
characters. And Glathan is, I always say this about Glathan, he's the person who a lot of people would think, well, he should be the king. But he's not. And he is, the thing I love about Glathan is that he's the ultimate wingman. He's that guy that, he's born in the same society. He's learned, he's grown and evolved for different reasons, as you learn later, but he's essentially very much like Author. However, he's managed to have that self-awareness and that self-development and that emotional intelligence to turn himself into someone who has much more of an appreciation for other, even though he's staunchly religious, like Author, even though he's staunchly an Atlantean and he's part of that whole colonial superpower thing, he sees the world through a different lens. He understands and appreciates other cultures. He understands that the Atlanteans, yes, we were great, but maybe we weren't the greatest. He understands those things, and you'll see more of why later.
More realistic in his way of thinking.
Yeah, and he's also extremely kind, thoughtful. He often wants to do the right thing, but often doesn't know what that is. Glathan knows what the right thing is. When Glathan doesn't do the right thing, that's very purposeful, and Glathan is still a pragmatist, and he's still committed to protecting Othrin because he loves Othrin, like his own brother. And he believes Othrin is, for whatever reasons, it's kind of odd because you go, Glathan seems so intelligent. Why is he so sold on this guy? Why is he back this guy? Like, well, there's reasons for that, But as you go on, you see. But yeah, Glathan is actually one of the few really, I'd say overall, he has his issues too, but decent characters in the book.
Nice.
So
no one's perfect, but like he just seemed the most well-rounded, like not as narrow-minded as a lot of the characters are.
That's an excellent question from Books on Steroids. Want to know why the father let Ethel marry Deidre? Well, let's put it this way. If you read A Drowned Kingdom, I'll tell you the reasons I give you. I basically say that the father is failing. He's ailing. He's getting old. He's getting more advanced and senile, and he's much more malleable. And Erthel's getting to that point where he's getting ready to take over, as the king, right? So the father realizes that, you know what? I'm old. I'm fading. Erthel's gonna be the king, and I love my son. And as crazy as this seems, I trust him that this is going to work out well. And on top of that, but mainly because if you look back to the very beginning, the first few chapters, in his mind, the king is likely thinking, Erthel's going to marry them. We're going to get Norsun on our side. We're going to use them to conquer Crimea, and then we're going to betray them later. And it's a pretty straight up, tactical move.
Very calculating.
Right? Yeah. Very calculating.
I love you, Charles.
yeah. His uncle is badass, and Othrin, you're saying, is man. He's definitely intelligent because he always comes to a place of what he deserves. Yeah, but as you will see, the one thing about Othrin that you should realize, like, Othrin's not, for example, the best fighter in Atlantis, but he's pretty good. He's not the smartest, but he's pretty smart. He has his issues. He can be really dumb and dense and obtuse sometimes, but he's actually a decent strategist. He thinks he's cleverer than he is, but he is somewhat clever. And his uncle. He and his uncle are very much alike. And I
think that's why they clash, is because they're very much alike.
And when you go forward and you read further and you get to learn more about Othrin's uncle, especially in book 2, you will realize that Othrin, as I just mentioned, not only mimics and admires his uncle to a high degree, but his trajectory, he's purposely tried to set his trajectory up initially to be like his uncle's. Obviously, that's changed now because he's potentially going to be a king.
Yeah.
But, Othrin has that same potential his uncle has to be, yes, badass, but also a lot of issues. So watch for that, especially in book 2. There's a lot of, you get to know a lot more about Othrin's uncle in book 2. And did you always know the twist at the end? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I know that's right, Charles. You missed it. He missed a 1,000-page manuscript that's the whole 7-book saga. He's got it all planned out. He knows all our answers.
Yeah, all in this crazy head of mine, you got all the answers. So yeah. So, and there is going to be a lot of betrayals, lots of intrigue, lots of political stuff, lots of battles, lots of really messed up situations. So hold on for the ride. We'll see more of the angel that visited him. I can only say you got to read book 2 and 3 and onwards.
I also wondered if that was an angel or just like a self-fulfilling, because he thinks of himself in such like a high standing that like he looks at himself like God. So maybe he's seeing something because he wants to.
So one of the biggest mysteries of the book, we're in spoiler territory now, is the angel real? Is it a figment of author's imagination? Is it a manifestation of what he believes himself to be? Now, there in and of itself, that in itself is controversial in a way, because the biggest problem is that if author accepts that the angel is real and what the angel is telling me is real, it also means that author is illegitimate, that he is not really entitled to be the future king, and that he essentially is illegitimate, is a bastard, right? Pardon the French, but that's what he is. That itself is really problematic for a person who already has father issues, right? So
yeah, that's what made me wonder if that was just like his way of coping with him never getting along with his father.
Yeah. So
I'm not his kid, so that makes everything that he did to me make sense.
Yeah.
And that's a great supposition. You will find out more, especially as you get towards book 4, what's really going on with all of that stuff. Yeah, very much so.
I actually wanted to ask you, this might be a hard question because you're the author of the book, but do you have a specific favorite character?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
I wasn't expecting you to answer that quickly.
Most are like, they're all my babies. No,
yeah,
you have a favorite baby.
No, but they all are my
Everybody
babies.
Yeah.
Everybody has a favorite. Listen. Everybody has a favorite character. Everybody has a favorite. Like Lacey's my favorite character.
Okay,
She is complicated, conniving, scheming, compelling, brilliant. She's 10 steps ahead of everybody. She is charismatic. She is, but yet, buried so deep under her is this real desire for happiness, right? And it doesn't come out as much, and except when you see those moments when, a lot of people in the first book are like, wow, she's this bad, but she's so into authoring, and she just like, it's her weakness, right? And yes,
and like automatically too. It was like the minute she saw him, it was like boom. I'm like, wait, you just saw him 5 seconds ago. Like, how?
Keeping in mind though that she saw him, according to her, through her elemental sight beforehand. So she saw him in her visions, and she saw that this was the person for her. And she even saw that he is supposed to be married to what she can determine a daughter of her father. She believes that's her.
Okay.
So if you read John Kingdom, she has him preset as the one, and she's willing to sacrifice everything.
She did, and she offered it to him. I was like, wow. That scene took me back. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
And then she followed through on it too. I was just like, okay, you're just a bunch of words, but no, your actions and your words are making sense. So
yeah.
Authoring is Lacey's Achilles heel. We'll see to what degree that affects her down the road, but but the one thing is, frankly, and I was talking about this on a different podcast, is that people have to realize, I know my friend Tim Hardy, brilliant author of Hall of Bones, he's like, man, I know why women like Author, because he's good looking, he's really good looking, he's in great shape, and he's powerful, and he's kind of witty, blah blah, but he's a douchebag, right? Like for as much as the whole some people like the bad boys, looking on the outside in, it's like, okay, he's wealthy, he's powerful, he's attractive, he's but he's arrogant, and but I mean, again, he at least he's trying to be a faithful husband. He loves kids, he wants to be a father, like he has these qualities that you go, oh, okay, I can kind of see why people kind of go for him, right?
Yeah.
And he's really really good looking, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of one of those things where you go, okay, but you can see why people are like, why do people like, okay, well,
like he was so, like, the part that like threw me a little bit was like he was so surprised that his wife was mad. I'm like, dude, she did that all in front of her. I would be pissed too.
Yeah,
Like, like
Yeah.
I would be
Good point.
pissed.
Yeah, because
Maybe
authors
that wouldn't you?
author is always expecting that everything he does is okay. She should know better. I was just doing this for a political reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he, because to him, sadly, his value system, as much as he in his own way loves Alia, she's like a subject to him, right?
Yeah.
She's a lesser. Yes, she's the princess, but he's the prince. She's only the princess because he's the prince. Like,
Right.
his thought process, the way he looks at women. Yes, there's a chivalric code, and he considers them fragile and need to be protected and taken care of and all that. But they're also second class citizens to him, and that's his value system, right? So, that's why.
I find her fascinating. Do we get more of like Allie, not her point of view, but do we get more of like how she's feeling about everything in more books as we go along?
Very
Do we
much
get
so.
her point of view? I want to ask that question.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna give. Let's just say in book 3, you get a lot more of what Alia is thinking, a lot of her ideas about things. You get more of that in book 3.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because even though she's quiet, she doesn't seem dumb.
Docile.
Like,
Oh, no.
yeah, she's like
No.
at all.
Alias is that this is the difference, right? In the societal values as a woman in Atlantis, as a highborn lady, you're supposed to be a certain way. So Alias feels that that's her duty. However,
Mhm.
she has a backbone, she has her own mind, and she's going to do what she can in her way within the context of how a woman is supposed to act and supposed to be treated. She's
Right.
going to do her thing to make herself heard, to influence Authrin to make good decisions. That's her, in her mind, that's what she's going to do, right? Authrin doesn't get that, of course, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he looks at her as a really pretty, really warm, really loyal, devoted wife. That's a trophy on my arm. That
Pretty much like a doll. Like she's
Yeah.
got because he always says she's fragile, she's fragile, she's fragile. I'm like,
She's gonna
But
pick up
what
a
else?
sword and just be like,
Yeah.
yeah. Surprise us all.
He's but in the Round Kingdom, he's surprised by her fortitude, right?
Mhm.
He's surprised. He's always like, oh, she made it through the mountains and she's
Yeah.
helping other people, and like, because Author underestimates women in general.
Right.
He values
Yeah.
women. What Lysy throws him completely for a loop. Seeing a woman armed, he's like, this is not the way it's supposed to be. This is offending my sensibility. Oh, but it's also turning me on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like he's conflicted over that, right? Because in his mind, those are not the values that women supposed to represent. Lysy is badass. She takes no prisoners. She's straight up. She, that's supposed to be what he doesn't want in a woman, but yet he's into her.
Yeah.
Plus, she's hot, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said that it wasn't the last chapter, but it was close to the end where like he knows he shouldn't like a woman like her, but she's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, folks. Like, sometimes in life, you're attracted to the opposite of what you believe, what you say that you want, right? I'm not just talking about just relationships. It could be food, it could be anything else, and you say,
Right.
"Oh, no," and then suddenly, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that will make for some very interesting future dynamics. Yeah. She and you know what?
I can hear him saying that right now.
Jen brought up an excellent point that Lysy's basically like, yeah, okay, well, like if you really don't want to get rid of poor Lysy, we'll just have a threesome, and like she doesn't care, right? And that's not something that Author is ready. And also on top of that isn't Author's value system. You know what I mean? Like he's like, oh my gosh, how dare you? But I'm turned on.
Yeah, that's
what I mean.
I loved how uncomfortable he got. I was
I'll
like,
make an exception for me.
yeah, like and he is not used to a woman that's just gonna come straight up and go, listen, man, this is what he's used to being the pursuer. Like it's just, he comes from
the traditional roles, so to speak.
Yes, exactly. So this is all throwing him right off, Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point, and Authrin comes from a system as well that would be kind of be condoned if amongst his Atlantis, as long as you weren't serious about her, you can have as many mistresses as you want. But when it comes to marrying, you're supposed to marry the prim and proper lady like Alias, right? So and it's obviously very hypercritical, one standard for the men and another for the women kind of situation, right?
Yep.
Very unfair and very antiquated in the belief system. But yeah, like and especially of course the royals, because as the author says, when you make the rules, you're not expected to kind of pay the crime kind of thing, right? When you're at the top of the society, you should be able to get away with basically anything, right? So that is part of how he thinks.
The entitledness of it, but like he was raised with that, so he doesn't know anything different.
Yeah, and that has been reinforced by hundreds of years of tradition and previous royals and the people around him. He's at the top of the society, right? People bow and scrape to him. So
and that's what I liked when Atlantia did fall. He had to start from the beginning. Like he had to become friends with people that, or align himself with people that he didn't think he would align himself, like with her and with Welly. And
that's an excellent point. And he is forced to look at them with different eyes, not just as in his mind he's still, these guys are barbarians, they're heathens, blah blah. But then you realize, but he's kind of a good guy. You know what I mean? Like it's Ross. I guess it's way messier. It gets way messier.
Woo! I love that. Sign me up for mess. I'm down.
and I said this before. I don't know if anybody heard. Like I'm a big romance fan, and what I love about being able to do with books is that the romance gets ratcheted up with each book. It's kind of, that's one of my favorite elements of book. A lot of people I know don't like that in fantasy, but I do. So I write books accordingly, and I love interpersonal relationships and romantic relationships, and what you can do with those things. And in this case, it's those things are pretty central to the plot and the overarching story.
Pat, it's so late where you are. How are you awake? Pat's in the UK.
Oh wow, yeah, it's like
it's late.
Like
Pat's
2 in the morning.
That's the one thing our other friend Nicole always says. Pat's a vampire. And
She's
I was like,
secretly a vampire.
Oh, that's all good. We like us some vampires. We like that.
Yes. Charles is a romance reader like us.
Okay, yeah. So Charles, I mean, there's a little bit in very tame, pretty tame, just in A Drowned Kingdom. But with every book, you get more and more romantic scenes, and not too but by the time you get to Lord King, there's some. And
but I appreciate that you write women with agency, because a lot of women in that time period specifically, like historically, didn't have any agency. So you give them as much as they can have in that circumstance.
When you get to book 3, you will see true agency from the female characters. I mean, female characters that have as much or more agency than any male character. And as the series goes on, you will realize, again, as I said, the Drowned Kingdom saga, women are at the heart of it. It's the power of the women that really make the series go. So when does this family think the king is descended from God? Thinking, well, I explained to some of the value systems in A Drowned Kingdom, in that in Atlantean society, they of course are monotheistic. They worship the single god, and very similar to a lot of medieval values, they believe that the only king above the king of the island is the single god. So essentially, the king is only answerable to the single god. The single god is kind of like, obviously a deity, but also the king or ruler of all the universe. And the king of Atlantis is only answerable to a being on that level. He is not answerable to anyone else.
Liz here is our, she loves history and our historian of the group. If we have any questions when it comes to history, we ask Liz.
Yeah. So the Atlanteans believe the kings believe they rule by divine right, essentially. So to make it, short and sweet, they believe they rule by divine right, and they believe that no one can judge them except for God. So that in itself is pretty problematic, but that's the value system. So.
Not much.
Oh my goodness, Pat! It's 2:17.
Wow, you're a trooper, Pat.
I love you, but I want you to sleep. I love you, but I want you to sleep. Oh, look who else popped in the chat.
Hey.
Hi!
What's up?
How are you, my friend?
What's going on, bro? That guy, he's amazing.
He's awesome.
Check out Epic's channel. The graphics he does.
Did you see the one that he dropped today about Evan Winter's series?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
He did like
Oh, that's
he
one of my
did
favorite
for the
series,
first
too.
book. He did like the animation for the first book, and
For Rage of
my
Dragons, yeah.
goodness.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
Oh my goodness, it was
Epic
great.
is he's on another level with that stuff.
He's
man. He is-
fantastic.
I bow to you, Epic. Yeah, he's that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Epic is top notch.
Hi, Jamie.
Jamie, hey, how's it going? Well, a lot of people are coming in. What time is it now? People are coming in late. That's all good.
I know.
So 6:20 on the West Coast.
Oh yeah, that's right. 6:20 on the West Coast. Yeah, that's right. So
And
I'm
then
on
getting off work now.
We're both on the same. Thank goodness, it makes it so much easier. PL that you and I are on the same time zone.
Yeah. You're like my sister. Something. You're a March baby too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, March
Right? Yeah.
March 19th. Yep, March 19th.
We have the same birthday.
We do.
What?
We have the same birthday.
I didn't know that.
We're gonna have
No wonder we get along so well.
We have the same birthday. And interesting tidbit. They're still working on a lot of the genealogical stuff, but apparently my lovely wife Debbie, she is related through her website to Jane Austen.
That's
one of my favorites.
Author.
One of my favorites.
I know. One of mine too. Yeah.
Love you, Epic.
Oh yeah, Epic.
He's awesome. Epic. We still have to do that buddy read of Dragonbone Chair, Sir, at some point.
You guys are doing a buddy read. Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I read the second series, King of Austen. I haven't finished yet. I read the first two books. I didn't go and read Memory of Sword. I didn't read that first. I read the second series. But it's kind of cool because it's, now you're seeing people as they're older. And Tad Williams is awesome. Read on Page Chewing. He is a fantastic guy.
He was great.
Tad Williams, yeah, amazing.
I reached out to him randomly and he sent me his email. He was like, email me anytime. I'm like, are you serious? Okay.
Oh yeah. Great guy. And authors are just, hey, listen, man. Authors, they're people, and we love to engage community. We're so honored when we get asked to do this stuff, and we're grateful we get to talk about books and our books and stuff for an hour or two with people that we like. Like that's what's the downside, right?
Right.
There is none.
And that's what surprises me. Like I always go in as assuming that people will say no. So when people say yes, I'm like, awesome.
Like I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, and
no worries, Jamie. No worries.
Take care, buddy. Yeah, and as you know, I mean, on Page Chewing, we have had a lot of great guests, authors of all and creators of all stripes. But yeah, when some people go, "Wow, you so and so's coming on the show," like, yeah, how'd you get? Well, we asked them, and they're they love to talk about literature. They want to talk promote their books, and they're good people, and they want to help us. And yeah, it's a great community.
You actually you had a discussion. I forget whose channel it was on, but my friend was part of that discussion. Roger Reed's.
Oh, Roger Reed's, yeah. That was on Taylor's channel. That was deep dive into Way of Kings.
Yes. And it was he. I'm going to admit something I've never read up until this year, or last year, I should say. Tolkien, and he basically was like, "Ma'am, if you're friends with me, we have to read Tolkien." So we buddy read all of the Lord of the Rings last year together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, we've been having a hard time scheduling it because everybody who wants to be part of the live stream is on a different time zone. So it's like
Yeah, well, I know what that time zone is. Believe me, this has been up like Taylor's in Japan.
I don't know how she does it.
So you can imagine how, and I'm Eastern Standard Time, so you can imagine and then we have guest star in the UK, for example. So it's like, bah, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's just trying to figure out time zones, and I try to be more receptive to everybody because I don't have kids. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't. Yeah. So if you have kids, please don't stress yourself out. That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, life happens.
Wow. Tolkien is foundational.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem, I don't know how you and Jen feel, is always about finding the time to read all the books you want to read.
See? Yes.
There's
My
no time.
boyfriend jokes with me that they'll bury me with my unread TBR because it won't be finished.
Well, I saw a video, and I think Alicia, you shared it to me, or I shared it to you, where this girl goes, "I finished all the books on my TBR," and I'm like, one, you're probably an alien. If you're not, you're lying to me because there's no way there, unless if you like shut yourself off on a room and you're like, I'm not going to look at any new books coming out. I'm not
going to talk to anybody ever. The worst ones are your page chewing discussions. Like I come out of those with like 15 other books added on my TBR. I'm like, this is killing me.
Oh yeah, I like when I go on BookTube and I turn on like your channel, somebody's channel is like, oh man, Goodreads, and I just end up clicking.
Exactly.
Now I just like, yeah, click and do it. Forget about it. I'll just do it. There's no point.
I'll do it at some point.
Yep.
And then I want to reread everything, so that adds more onto it. I'm just like,
Exactly.
You should. Oh my gosh, Alicia, you should get a bunch of like little Dollar Tree clocks and then put the names of your friends and what state they're in and what their local time is. Although it's really gonna suck. Maybe wait until after daylight savings time because that's
yeah. Well, you're in Arizona, so that really doesn't affect you.
Oh, you're in Arizona. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I cannot suggested enough for people to just not change their time clocks. Although hot is hot here and sun, it is what it is. So
I'll send you all the rain that we've been getting here. I'll send it over. We've been getting a ton of rain in Tennessee.
We have chances for rain all weekend, and because of that, I'm like, it's definitely not going to rain. When they're like, there's not a chance in the forecast that a raindrop will fall from the sky, I'm like, we're going to get a storm tonight. For sure.
Jamie, you have a better control of what
only 38 books?
I know. I'm like, how? And I've known Jamie for a couple of years now, and I'm still shocked by it.
Hey, hats off to you, man. 38 books. I mean, I think last year I read over 100 books. I'm not gonna read that this year, but and that's nothing compared to people like Esme Rosalie, like those people read
Esme, I don't like how.
Like they read I don't understand. I have 605 books on my Goodreads TBR. This is my Goodreads TBR. So
what you got to do is you got to ask Charles, our Books on Stereo, how many books that he's read this year. I don't know how he does it. He must be a vampire like Pat, and also
they must be part of the same family at some point. But that's what I wanted. Another question that I wanted to ask you: How do you read so much and write? Like, I seem to always have to do I want to write today. No, I want to read today. Like I can't do both. It seems like.
I totally that's totally valid, and a lot of authors actually say they have a hard time writing, especially if they read too much. They feel like the style of the authors that they read will bleed into their work.
That's my biggest fear.
That's a common complaint. For me. I've always been a voracious reader, and I am old school. Again, I'm old, and I subscribe to that Stephen King, thing where it's like, hey, like, do you want to be a better writer? Read.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that for me, reading a lot makes you better. So when I started blogging, when I actually became a blogger, Join Before We Go blog. Shout out Beth Tabler. She's amazing. What's up, Beth?
Beth is great.
Yeah. So I'm with Before We Go blog, my assistant editor, and when I started blogging, that's I think really when I've always loved writing, but that's when I started to appreciate so much more about, because I started getting more well read. And I realized, like what that writer did with that is just amazing. Yeah. And what that writer did was, and it's unique. I just think it makes you a better writer. I understand you may go through spots where I can't read that because I'm trying to focus on, my writing my book.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I think in the grand scheme, I think it does. For me, everybody's different. For me,
is it hard for you to read in the same genre that you write in?
I almost exclusively read fantasy and sci-fi now. I used to read, especially when I was starting my career, a lot more police procedurals, like law enforcement stuff, murder mysteries, blah, blah, blah. When I didn't have a lot of time to read, but when I did read, I read that stuff. I didn't have a lot of time, and then when I was younger, it was all mostly fantasy and stuff. But I feel like now I'm so immersed in everything fantasy, from blogging to page chewing to that. Yeah, I just fantasy is my jam, man. So
I love it. People look at me, they're like, how did you start loving to read? I'm like, I read Pride and Prejudice when I was 8. And people just look at me like I'm nuts.
Wow. No, that's incredible. That's amazing.
I'm like,
wow.
I don't know. My mom read me Pride and Prejudice when I was a kid. So
I'm impressed. Like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, that's awesome.
Jen and I are planning a literary trip to England at some point.
Ooh. Hey,
Down.
hey, we're I mean, right now it seems like Glasgow next year. I'm going. My Deb and I are going. That seems to be like everybody that I know is going. It's going to be a big. So I mean, just saying, if you guys are thinking about, Glasgow 2024 in August, this time about a year from now, is going to be.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Oh.
I'm actually hoping to get your way soon because I don't think you and I've talked about this, but I come from a hockey family. Like all my siblings play hockey. My father played hockey. Like, so it's nice to talk to a Canadian who gets hockey.
Oh yeah,
when
a huge fan, and all of Deb's kids played at one time. And like I said, my stepdaughter Laura, who likes to space now, she was a fabulous hockey player. She's in university now. She doesn't play anymore, but yeah.
Yep, I got them for my little sister. That's her Christmas. That's her Christmas present.
Oh,
Dad,
awesome.
don't watch this with the baby. I don't want her to know. she just turned 2. My little sister. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, that'd be so amazing if you ever come. Love to meet up. Like we had a meetup just a couple months ago. It was Christian Miles Cameron, Crystal Matar, who writes Legacy of the Brightwash.
It's on my TBR.
It will ruin you. It will ruin you.
Oh no.
Legacy Brightwash will ruin you. So, and the heat factor it's spicy. Yeah.
Love it. That's a tick for me.
It will break your heart, but yeah, it's got a lot of slow burn. Yeah, with quite the pace.
Poor shame, Charles. Poor shame.
Really? I didn't know that. I'm not mad. I'm not mad, but I'm surprised.
I'll be mad for you.
Well, hey, I'm just kidding. another new subscriber. There you go.
I love you anyway, Charles.
That's true. That's the way to look at it.
Another new subscriber.
Oh yeah.
The book that you just mentioned. What was the name of it again?
Whichever author. Sorry, which one?
The High Spice.
The one with spice.
Oh, yeah. Legacy of the Brightwash.
Okay.
Legacy of the Brightwash. Yeah. It is. I have the second one. I haven't read it yet, but I hear it's even more juicy. So yeah. So.
I got really upset when I found out one of the cons Steve went to was literally like 30 minutes from my house, and I didn't know. I was so upset.
Yeah.
I was like, darn it.
I still haven't met Steve. I'm obviously Tales of Japan. Haven't met Steve.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. This from the amount of people I hear in the community that are going to Glasgow, and I've never been to across the pond before. So Deb and I we're just so excited.
Me either.
So, but I am going to. We are going to Kansas City in October for the World.
Okay.
Awesome. So we're going to be down.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're starting to get out now and kind of venture out and do the cons and stuff. So
yeah,
it's hard to get.
But I found out after that Steve was like literally half an hour away from my house. I was like, darn it.
Yeah, I know, it's upsetting. You could have met up, right?
Right. And I'm actually interviewing in October Robert P. Otterborn.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
And he was there, and he was like, "Darn it, we could have met in person." I'm like, "Darn."
Yeah. And you want to take those opportunities because we all meet virtually, and you form these friendships, like these lasting. It's like, if you get a chance to meet the person in person, you don't want to.
Yeah, I tell her all the time I have a spare bedroom. Like, Jen and I have never met in person.
Oh, you never met in person?
No.
Oh my gosh. We gotta get that.
We've been friends for almost 4 years now, and we've never met in person.
Oh, you gotta get down to the desert. Arizona is beautiful, so you gotta get down to
just not right now.
When it's not 110.
I think we didn't. Okay, in our defense, we didn't break the records like we did in 2020. 2020, we broke every record under the sun. Where I think we had over 100 days of. I don't know if it was 115 or 110 plus. It was outrageous. We did break a record this year, I think, with the over 115s.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know it was 100. It was 103 here, and of course that was the day my air conditioner went.
That's never good.
That was
Oh,
great. That was fun.
Our AC went
Definitely.
out at the top of our heat time, and it was like 117. And unfortunately, my cats did not want to go into their crate, so they had to stay in the house. And it got up to 94, which people are like, but there are cats out the side that are at the 115. I'm like, well, my divas are inside, and it's 77. Okay, they deserve the cooler weather. But what do they do when we get the AC fixed? They curl up next to the window.
The curl, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, not sorry, bro.
Welcome to our problem.
Did Charles just buy Legacy of the Bright Watch?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yes. Yeah, knowing Charles, yeah.
Charles, it is really good. It's really good.
It's just yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. Just don't come in the summer.
Yeah, I'm gonna come in like the fall, like maybe December, January.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
I'm trying to talk
rainy, but it'll not be hot.
As you know, I'm trying to talk Greg into like us doing a booktube meetup, like drive across the country.
Wow, that'd be awesome. Just go see different people that you met at booktube.
Yep, because awesome. Literally we didn't meet until the pandemic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we literally talk every day.
Wow. Yeah, the pandemic launched a lot of booktube careers.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I didn't even know it was a thing until the pandemic, honestly. I was like, I've always been a reader, and then I'm like, wait, people make YouTube videos about reading? What? And I have to mention, you actually started a YouTube channel, which is linked below.
Thank you.
Yes. Where he does all fabulous interviews, and we'll have to collaborate on something at some point.
Oh, I'd love to. Oh, I'd be honored. I would love to. Anytime, just let me know. Just let me know.
Same with you. Anytime. You don't even have to ask. Just tell me where to be.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, that's don't say that now, because when I come and ask you, then
also I'll automatically say yes.
Okay. All right.
Automatic around dates. I'll say yes, but I'm just like, okay, now we gotta plan the time.
Yes. Yeah. I get it. I respect time, but yeah, if you guys say yes, I will definitely.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Gregor, yeah. Deb, my wife is like, you bought books again? Like she sees, it's like, well, I didn't have that one.
They speak to me now. The ones
my favorite
aren't speaking to me just at the moment.
My favorite is my mom yells at me, "You bought more books?" I'm like, "I swear, author sent them to me. I didn't buy anything. I swear."
I know, Alicia. When you started sending me stuff, my dad was like, "You bought more books? Like, ask what you wanted for your birthday." And I was like, "I didn't buy these ones. These were
they were your birthday gift."
Oh yeah. I'll pull that sometimes. I swear. That one, but what about the other three?
Yeah, all right.
Don't ask about those, okay?
I do want to read Kill Shield Start.
That is, I hear that's quite spicy, and I hear.
Wait for me. I want to read it.
Okay, and I wait. I mean, I want to read, but it's way down the TPR.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Was that for Alicia? She subbed to Alicia, right? Or it's up to Jen?
Well, I think it's for you, because I think he mentioned it earlier for her. So
I think it's yours.
For now,
I gotta do this. I gotta do the same.
There's
a fancy. You already.
He does a lot of interviews with audiobook narrators that are fantastic.
Okay.
See, he did it for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Now you see why I always rave about PL, because he's fantastic.
Oh, you're so sweet. That's awesome.
But I don't want to keep you too long, because it is Friday night, and I wanted to thank you so much.
Friday? I'm on par with that. I think it's Saturday. For the last 3 days, I have been way off. Thursday felt like Friday. No,
I told you the same thing. What did he say?
No, Charles.
No, it's not. You just haven't posted in a while. That's okay.
We'll do a Cool Shield Start read along. We might have to push it to January. Let's put it on a late night Saturday. It'll be our
let's get back to book club after dark. Yeah.
After dark. Alrighty. Well, I just subscribed to Charles, so can't wait to watch his stuff. Oh, looks like he got some good stuff. Yeah.
He's got and he does really quick videos. So boom, boom, boom.
All right, guys. I'll be checking it out.
But I
So,
hope you will come on my channel again for book
oh,
2 because
I'd be
this
so
needs
honored.
to happen.
Three,
This needs to
four.
happen because that ending,
Oh, thank
that
you.
ending, we need to read book 2.
We got
Well,
things
thank
to
you.
discuss.
Book
Yes.
two's got more action. Yes, you got all the political stuff, but by the time you get to, after the first 4 or 5 chapters, it starts to really, and
Yeah.
then there's a bit of a, but then it really starts to get crazy.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
So,
I'm so excited.
Charles.
but yeah, this has been so awesome, Jen. And I say thank you so much for having me on. It's so amazing. You guys are fabulous.
Thank you for saying yes. I know
thanks for coming on.
Come on,
it feels weird that you and I have been talking for so long, and this is technically the first time we've met.
Yeah,
Technically.
well, that's now that's not gonna be like that going forward.
Yeah, it's just weird. I'm like, I talk to him all the time, but yeah, this is the first time I've seen him in person.
And well, that's gonna be rectified though. So yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
more.
As long as you're okay with going to a hockey game with me when we.
I want to go.
Jen is coming automatically. Like that wasn't even a question. You're coming anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we're a package deal.
Oh, blast, man! Oh, blast! Maple Leafs. The experience, seeing the hockey games in Canada, the experience it's like off the hook.
Yeah, I want to You might not like me after you find out what team I follow because of where I'm originally from. I'm originally from right outside Philadelphia, so I
the Flyers! You're a Flyers fan.
Yeah,
that's okay. The Broad Street.
People give me crap for it all the time.
That's okay.
We'll allow it, Alicia.
We'll allow it. All right. That's all right. We'll allow it. So yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on. It's been awesome.
Thank you,
Jen. Thanks so much. I know you said you've been up early just for hanging. You're probably exhausted. So thank you so much.
She's probably half asleep.
I'm glad that I had coherent sentences because that was one of my things. Honestly, you can ask anyone in the chat that was on Wednesday's book club. They'd be like, "Jen, were you drinking?" And I was like, I can't remember.
I asked you. I was like, "Did you have Guinness and not tell me?"
I might have. Wednesday, again, which was 2 days ago, feels like it was last week. I don't know how words are happening.
Oh, so. Mama. Well, you might find this funny. That's my grandmother.
Hey,
oh, wow.
Grandma.
Oh, hi, how are you? How are you?
Hi. Yeah, no, so now she can steal the book from me because I kept it so I could finish reading it before the so now she's gonna steal it.
Well, I hope you enjoy it when you read it.
I hope you're feeling better.
Oh, she was feeling well. Okay, I hope you're feeling better.
I got sick.
I mean, I feel like it should be for some.
For
some states too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta love it when
you're pretty big.
You gotta love it when your grandmother gets a YouTube channel just to follow you.
That's awesome.
I'm like, oh, okay.
That's amazing. Just technologically, she's ahead of me. That's for sure. I found my way through everything I do. So I just call my kids.
She calls me. She calls me.
I just call my kids and my grandkids when I get myself down.
I was trying to get on YouTube earlier to answer one of Charles' questions, and I was like, I can't even figure it out. So beyond me.
But I did want to put a banner up. We are going to be doing in the first week of September, right, Jen?
Oh yeah. I was like, what are we doing in September?
Red Rising. Oh, I have not read it. I know that I know sacrilege, right? I know. I haven't
read it either, so you're not alone.
I've not read Pierce. I've not read Pierce Brown. So Mike, I keep seeing Mike's book reviews and all these people rave about this thing. It's on my. There's so much to get to. I will get to eventually. I will get to it.
Alicia, why did I think you had read it and this is a reread for you?
Nope.
I read the first 3. It's been a long time, but I wanted to read the next 3 in his series. And so Alicia was like, oh, we should do a reread. And I was like, okay. But maybe it was you meant a reread for me. And it's going to be brand new because I don't remember books that I read 5 minutes after I finish them. Unless if they're really good. Like this one I feel like is going to stick with me. And then I'll keep up with the next couple. And then the next couple weeks, months.
Possibly in October, if that works for you, because I know scheduling was kind of tough for you for book 2.
Oh, yeah. Who were you talking to, me or PL?
PL.
Okay.
I would be honored. I have a couple things going on in October, but we will figure something out. Absolutely. Perfect. I'd be so honored.
Yay!
yeah. It's book 2 is a lot more.
I'm so excited. It's
things-
definitely chunkier.
Yeah, it's a bit chunkier. So the rest of the books are kind of the same size, like Lord and King and Alliance with Ruby, all around the same size. But yeah, book 2 starts to get a bit chaotic, and watch out for Lacey in book 2 early on. Watch for Lacey. Watch for Lacey. Just watch out for her. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
There we go.
Blessed
Yeah,
female.
she's the
That's
best.
Nice. Yeah, that's
She's
nice.
the best.
Oh, that's
She's
awesome.
where I got my reading from. Her and my mom are both big readers, so yeah. She'll finish a book quicker than I will. She'll finish a book quicker than I will, and I'll be like, "You finished that already?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "How?"
Well,
I know.
Well, even if I haven't read Red Rising, certainly, if you put something out, you help boost it out and boost the signal, and yeah, for sure, just let me know, and eventually, I'll keep checking out both your channels, and when you guys are talking about books, and eventually I will read something at the same time, or buddy, and I'll be like, hey, let's talk about it, so
yeah, we'll have to get on Epic for when we need to start that Dragon Prone Chair read. Yeah, because I've never read anything by Tad Williams, and I watched the interview you did, and I was like, I want to read everything by this man.
the man, like, he writes, he is like, so characterization is like, that Robin Hobb in-depth level of, but just the prose is beautiful, and just like, wow, he's a master. That's why so many people, as we said, like, so many big writers, your favorite writer, he's their favorite writer, so yeah, he's amazing and such a great guy. He just
seems so sweet. Like, I just want to have a cup of coffee with him.
I don't know why. I do too. Yeah, if I ever get anywhere near California, I'm going to track that man down and have a coffee with him. He's a great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy.
But thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for everybody in the chat and everybody watching after the fact. I greatly appreciate it. And keep your eyes open, because I have author interviews scheduled out for the rest of the year, so that'll be done. Wow. And then I will have the Red Rising read along scheduled out this weekend, so you can set reminders for it.
I'll make something on Facebook for us.
And then as soon as we figure out a date, this will be scheduled. Because this needs to happen. I'm so excited.
I can't wait to talk to you about it. Things start to pick up in the last year.
Thank you so much again. I hope everybody has a great night.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for having me, ladies. Thank you.
Bye now.